NBA players are starting to break their silence after shocking new details emerged surrounding the death of Brandon Clarke, and what we're learning now is leaving fans completely disturbed. From alleged cover-ups to drug use behind the scenes, many think this story is far bigger than anyone ever expected. Brandon Clarke, the power forward for the Memphis Grizzlies, died this past Monday. He was only 29 years old. The news hit the basketball world on Tuesday, May 12th. When his team and agency confirmed it. But it was what came times after times the announcement that really got people talking. According to reports from NBC Los Angeles, LA Fire Department paramedics responded to a 911 call about a medical emergency at a home in the San Fernando Valley on Monday evening. When they arrived on the scene, they found Clarke deceased. That call came in around 5 p.m. on Monday, and by the time paramedics got there, Clarke was declared dead. Now, here is where the story takes a much darker turn. Drug paraphernalia was reportedly found inside the home, and this incident is being investigated as a possible overdose. Law enforcement sources told NBC Los Angeles that narcotics were found at the scene, but there was no evidence of foul play. Other sources confirmed that officially, this is being treated as a potential overdose case, not a homicide. But that official line did little to stop the wave of reactions. Because before Clarke died, he said something that now sounds like a chilling warning. In what's being circulated as his last known interview, Clarke said he felt like something bad was about to happen to him. He also said he'd been very unlucky in recent days. He said, "I just hope to stay in the league as long as I can," before adding, "Outside world ain't safe." Those chilling words are now being picked apart by fans and commentators who are convinced there is more to this than the initial reports let on. And believe me, it wasn't just the fans reacting. The death of Grizzlies big man Brandon Clarke absolutely shocked the NBA world on Tuesday. Clarke, at 29, was beloved throughout the league by teammates, coaches, and opponents alike. Morant posted, "Clearly heartbroken. Love you, broski. Gone way too soon. It's bigger than basketball." Now, that phrase right there, "it's bigger than basketball," is the one that completely caught fire online. Was it simple grief or something more? Many read it as a coded message that Morant knew something about Clarke's situation that the public did not. Scottie Pippen Jr. wrote, "Rip, brother, you will be missed. Gone too soon," Jalen Wells added. Everything he's went through, he still came in with a smile on his face and was a light in the locker room. Truly an inspiring person. Kyle Anderson posted, "I'm so effed hurt. Man, really, my dog? I love you so much. Brother, I wish I could have been there for you." And that phrase from Anderson, "I wish I could have been there for you," is another one the internet immediately seized on. It implies this deep regret, as if Anderson felt Clarke was in a situation that could have been prevented if someone was around. You combine that with Morant's cryptic post, and Clarke's own words about the world not being safe, and a new narrative began to form. Fans are convinced Clarke's death was not just some straightforward tragedy, but something with much darker layers. To understand why the basketball world reacted this way, you have to understand who Brandon Clarke was and what he meant to people. Clarke was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, before his family eventually settled in Phoenix. He played at Desert Vista High, leading his team to the state championship game in 2015. But he wasn't a five-star recruit. He wasn't the kind of guy who had all the top-tier programs lining up at his door. He was an overlooked high school prospect. Clarke started his college career at San Jose State, coming off the bench as a freshman before absolutely blossoming into an all-conference player. In the 2016-17 season, that incredible transformation at San Jose State got bigger programs' attention, and he transferred to Gonzaga. He had to sit out a year as a transfer, but when he finally hit the court for the Bulldogs, his impact was immediate and undeniable. In his only season there, he averaged nearly 17 points a game, led a 33-win team to the Elite Eight, and was named to the Wooden All-American team. Let's be clear. A player who started on the bench at a mid-major had turned himself into a consensus All-American and a first-round NBA draft pick. With his draft stock absolutely surging, Clarke declared for the 2019 NBA draft, where the Grizzlies traded up from number 23 to select him with the 21st overall pick. Clarke was drafted by Oklahoma, but his rights were immediately dealt to the Grizzlies, who had just taken Morant at number 2. From day one, Clarke and Morant were linked, two rookies walking into a franchise that was rebuilding from the ground up. And Clarke delivered right away. A forward center hybrid, he averaged 12.1 points and 5.9 rebounds per game in his first year and was named to the 2019-20 All-Rookie First Team. Clarke joined his teammate Morant on the NBA's all-rookie team that season, averaging over 12 points and nearly 6 rebounds in 58 games. He finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. That is the kind of start that makes a franchise believe in you. And the Grizzlies believed in Clarke. He largely came off the bench, but was a key figure on that incredible 2021-22 Grizzlies team that won 56 games. During Memphis' deepest postseason run in 2022, he became an absolute necessity on the floor because of his aggressive rebounding and his ability to finish at the rim at an elite level. Though he was never a full-time starter, he was a part of that core group of players. The Grizzlies were trying to build a championship contender, and for years, he was a key piece of that vision. That 56-win season was the peak. The young Grizzlies, led by Morant and supported by guys like Clarke and Jaren Jackson Jr., looked like legit title contenders out in the Western Conference. Clarke was the ultimate glue guy, the kind of player whose energy off the bench could swing a game's momentum. He set screens, he grabbed offensive boards, he blocked shots, and finished with incredible efficiency. He wasn't a star, but he was. To the Grizzlies, he was indispensable. Clarke began as a key bench player before signing a huge 4-year, $52 million extension, October of 2022. That contract tells you everything. Memphis saw Clarke as a critical part of their future, and they were ready to invest. By every metric, he had earned it. But what happened after that extension was just devastating. The injuries began to pile up, and they never really stopped. He tore his left Achilles on March 3rd, 2023, in a loss to the Denver Nuggets, a battle between the West's top 2 teams. An Achilles tear is one of the worst injuries an athlete can face. It robs you of your explosiveness, your entire ability to move, and for a player like Clarke, whose entire game was built on pure energy and explosive finishes at the rim, the consequences were terrifying. That torn Achilles ended his season in March 2023, and he only managed to play in 6 games the entire next season. Just 6 games. That's how long the recovery took. And even when he did return, his time on the court was short-lived. He played 64 games in the 2024 to 2025 season, but just 2 this season due to knee and calf problem. After that Achilles tear in 2023 and a PCL injury in 2025, Clarke was limited to only 2 games this season after a calf injury. He was already out at the start of the season with a right knee injury. He came back in mid-December only to injure his calf in his 2nd game. The Grizzlies officially ruled him out for the season on March 24th, so while his team was in a playoff hunt, Clarke was just watching from the sidelines. He was unable to contribute to the game that was his whole life. In total, injuries held Clarke to 72 of a possible 246 games. That is a staggering number. Over 3 years, he missed 174 games, and that $52 million contract became a painful reminder. A reminder of what the team and the player had hoped for, and just how tragically short the reality fell from that high expectation. Now, think about what that does to a player's mind. You go from a vital piece on a top NBA contender to just another name on the injury list. You go from hearing the crowd roaring your name to watching from the bench in street clothes. The money keeps coming, but the game itself, the one thing you've worked for your entire life, is constantly being snatched away. And then, off the court, things got even worse. Just weeks before he died, Clarke made headlines for a really troubling incident in Arkansas, where he was arrested on April 1st, 2026. The charges were possession and trafficking of a controlled substance, which police identified as kratom, a substance that's illegal in Arkansas. He was also charged with fleeing from police in a vehicle. Brandon Clarke allegedly led sheriff's deputies on a chase that went for miles. Reports say speeds topped 100 miles per hour, and he was found with over 230 grams of kratom in his possession. The arrest affidavit stated a deputy was conducting a traffic stop when Clarke's Corvette blew past him. Clarke reportedly just kept going, sparking a chase that hit triple-digit speeds. When the police finally managed to pull him over, Clarke allegedly told them, "That stuff is legal," talking about the kratom they found in his car. Deputies also found a THC vape pen. A field test confirmed the liquid inside was marijuana. Prosecutors also charged Clarke with a felony count for fleeing in a vehicle. They said he was excessively speeding while trying to evade the police during the incident. But the list of charges didn't end there. Clarke was also hit with 3 misdemeanors: possession of a controlled substance, improper passing, and for speeding more than 15 miles over the limit. Clarke posted bail the next day on April 2nd. Court documents show his bail was set at $25,000. He walked out of jail, but his legal problems were just beginning. Clarke was scheduled to face a judge just days after his death. He never made it to that court date. Now, this brings us to the question so many are asking: what did his teammates mean? And why did some reactions feel like they were about so much more than just grief? Let's break down some of those key messages. Ja Morant shared a powerful post. He was honoring Brandon Clarke, writing, "This hurt. Gone way too soon." In another, Morant posted, "It's bigger than basketball," with a clip of them. He also called Clarke BC15, adding, "Still our GOAT." You have to remember, Morant and Clarke were the core of that Grizzlies team. They came up together during the team's playoff runs, building a very close bond. The posts showed pictures of them celebrating on court. It just highlights how central Clarke was to that locker room, and Morant's words have real weight because of how close they were. They were drafted together back in 2019. They made the all-rookie team together. They saw Memphis rise to the top of the league. So when Morant says it's bigger than basketball, you feel it. He's not just mourning a colleague, he's mourning someone he truly grew up with. He's mourning a brother. And the implication, for fans reading between the lines, is that there was something else going on in Clarke's life, something far beyond the final score. Jalen Wells wrote, "Everything he went through while I was in Memphis, he still came in with a smile. He was a light in the locker room, truly an inspiring person." That's a teammate telling you publicly that Clarke was going through it. He's not giving specifics, but he's making it clear there were struggles happening behind closed doors. The smile, the positive vibe, that light he brought to the locker room was apparently masking deeper issues that his teammates could see, but the rest of us couldn't. And then you have Kyle Anderson's raw, unfiltered post. "I'm so hurt, man. Really, my dog, my Virgo twin. I love you so much, brother. I wish I could have been there for you. I'm so hurt, man." The pain in that statement is obvious. "I wish I could have been there for you" is more than just grief. It's regret. Regret. That's the word you hear when people believe their presence might have changed an outcome. When you feel that someone you cared for was slipping away and you just weren't there to catch them. The NBPA released a joint statement from Andre Iguodala and President Fred Van Vliet, saying, "This is an incredible loss for the brotherhood. We will remember Brandon not only for the immense joy he brought to so many, but for the genuine friendships he built far beyond basketball." And there it is again, far beyond basketball. The phrases that players and officials are using all point in one direction, that Clarke's life off the court was complicated, and the people closest to him knew about it. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver also expressed sympathies to Clarke's family and the Grizzlies organization. "We are devastated to learn of the passing of Brandon Clarke," Silver said. As one of the longest tenured members of the Grizzlies, Brandon was a beloved teammate and leader who played the game with enormous passion and grit. Danny Green, a brief teammate of Clarke's in 22-23, remembered him on ESPN's NBA Today. Each one of these tributes just adds another layer to the portrait of a man who was cherished in private, but who was clearly wrestling with challenges that those around him could see. Meanwhile, Clarke's agency, Priority Sports, offered what is maybe the most poignant tribute. Our hearts are so broken as we think about his mom, Whitney, his entire family, and all of his friends, and teammates from high school to San Jose State to Gonzaga to the Grizzlies. Brandon impacted everyone. Everyone loved BC because he was always there as the most supportive friend you could ever imagine. He was so unique in the joy he brought to all of those in his life. It's just impossible to put into words how much he'll be missed. Look, the pattern in all these statements is impossible to miss. Everyone who knew Brandon Clarke loved him, and yet everyone seems to be saying, some directly, some between the lines, that he was fighting something. The injuries, the legal trouble, the isolation, the distance from the team, that looming court date, it was all closing in. So let's connect the dots here and be honest about what the evidence is actually telling us. The title of this video has the word murder in it because that's the word all over social media. Ever since Clarke's death was announced, his own last interview, where he said the outside world ain't safe, has just fueled that theory. The emotional, sometimes cryptic, reactions from players like Ja Morant and Kyle Anderson have only added to the speculation about what really happened. But here's what the actual investigation has revealed. LAPD sources confirmed to ABC News that Brandon Clarke was found dead from a possible drug overdose Monday in a home in LA, San Fernando Valley. We know that narcotics were found at the scene, and there was no evidence of foul play. That last part is absolutely critical. No evidence of foul play. The LA Fire Department responded to a medical emergency call around 5 p.m. Monday. When paramedics got to the scene, Clarke was declared deceased. An autopsy is set to determine the cause and manner of death. The official cause is pending additional investigation, according to the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner. Right now, there is no official link between the drug charges in Arkansas and Clarke's death in California. The combination of a young, high-profile athlete, an open drug case, and a sudden death has sparked a lot of theories. But those narratives aren't backed up by toxicology reports or any official cause of death. He was reportedly staying in Los Angeles with a college friend. TMZ reported that his barber told them Clarke seemed perfectly fine while getting a haircut on Friday. He was supposedly watching a playoff game between the San Antonio Spurs and the Minnesota Timberwolves right there in the chair. So just days before his death, Clarke was reportedly in good spirits, watching basketball, getting a haircut, and seemingly at ease. The reality, as we know it, is that the word murder doesn't match what investigators have reported. What does match is a far more common and equally tragic pattern. A young athlete dealing with mounting injuries robbing him of his career, legal trouble piling up, and substances being present in his final moments. And the players' reactions, while they're emotionally charged and you can read into them, are much more likely expressions of grief, guilt, and the helplessness of watching someone you care about fall apart from a distance. Clarke's own words about the world not being safe can be read in many ways. It could be interpreted as a general comment about life outside the NBA bubble. It could reflect his own awareness that the world beyond the court was where his problems were, multiplying. The arrests, the drugs, the isolation from the game he loved. There is no evidence right now that anyone caused Brandon Clarke's death. There is evidence that Brandon Clarke was a man who was struggling, and that the people who loved him knew it. And that in the end, none of them were able to stop it. Clarke had become one of the longest tenured players on that Memphis roster. He was a critical presence in the locker room during the franchise's rise into a Western Conference contender. Now, the basketball world is just waiting for answers in a tragedy that has left the Grizzlies organization and the entire NBA community completely stunned. Brandon Clarke was 29 years old. He played 7 seasons, all with one franchise, averaging 10.2 points and 5.5 rebounds over his career. He was a first-round draft pick, an all-rookie selection, a key piece on a 56-win team, and a $52 million man. And now, he's just gone. The autopsy results will eventually provide the final answer. But whatever that answer is, the loss remains the same. The NBA lost one of its own. The Grizzlies lost a brother, and the people closest to Brandon Clarke are now left with the heavy weight of knowing that all the love in the world wasn't enough to keep him here. We'll continue to follow this story, so be sure to subscribe for updates.